If you need more context, please look at the previous parts before this one.
So, one of the biggest things that have affected the breakdown of the black community is the fact that they're not following God's template of what we're supposed to do in terms of finding a husband or a wife, in terms of having children.
And just so you guys, scripturally speaking, obviously, you do not need to get married nor have kids necessarily. You maybe God might be telling you to have spiritual kids in the sense, or just no kids at all. It just depends. But basically, I think what he's trying to say is that, well, if you look at the previous parts to kind of give you a sneak peek, we're talking about what pretty much happened to the black culture, specifically in the South, of them kind of leaving God. As a black person from the South, I can boldly proclaim that no, we have not left God necessarily. Some of us have, for reasons which, again, I have already talked about.
In the Bible, it talks about not being unequally yoked with someone, which means that if you are a Christian and you're trying to find a wife, you should be finding another Christian instead of someone that's an atheist, because
in a sense, yes, that seems to be the given, and it'll just make sense in general, help with the unity of the family, whether you have kids or not. But it's also the unity of husband and wife. But also, generally speaking, that is not necessarily saying you can't have an atheist partner nor atheist friend. It is basically saying, via the examples of 2 Corinthians, why should I think Balaam have with Christ? Why should why should the church be with, say, these actual satanic cult, not secular Satanists, which I talked about there, and the difference between theological and secular Satanists. The secular ones are the good ones, guys. The not so good ones are the theological, spiritual Satanists. But that's mainly talking about, say, I can't be invited to, say, something that's atheistic in a sense, but I can invite the atheist to church. That's basically what it says by being unequally yoked. I shouldn't participate somebody who drinks at a bar, but they can participate at my church. That's basically what it seems like when it says to be equally yoked, especially now. So, in a sense, yes, Gothix is right to an extent, but also to an extent, I wouldn't say that no Christian can marry an atheist, because God might want you to marry an atheist to show the love, not his love of Christ, but just Christ in you. Like it says, I think also in 2 Corinthians about wives, not necessarily. Basically, if a wife has a husband who is not a Christian, and I think also vice versa, they have to show Christ in them so that their partners can basically be convicted in a good way and be Christian as well. But the given should be, if you're a Christian, try to find, and God will most likely give you a Christian partner. But maybe not. Maybe there's an atheist that just needs to have one more push to Christianity, to Christ. That one thing that afterwards the conviction of the Holy Spirit can really work by somebody who has Christ in them via marrying them, possibly. So there's that, but basically the given is try to marry with the same person. But also, basically, being unequally yoked here, if I'm correct, mainly in 2 Corinthians is mainly talking about not participating in stuff that is ungodly. So, yes, you can marry an atheist, but generally speaking, a Christian should marry another Christian. That just makes sense.
Because then, once you guys get married, you guys are basically following two totally separate belief systems.
Not really, because atheists, believe it or not, will do everything good that a Christian does. They just don't believe in God. That's what an atheist is. An atheist is basically answering the question, do you believe in God? And your answer is no. That's it. They're not a monolith. They're not a group. They're a group, but they're not a religion. they're not necessarily a belief system, in a sense. Their belief system is a lack of belief in God. That's their belief system in a sense. But everything else is basically the same thing, because, yeah, that's what it boils down
right?
to.
And that's going to cause problems.
Belief.
So
It
back then
can,
they're
doesn't
fostering that,
have
and
to.
they're also saying, okay, I'm not going to have kids until I get married with this person.
And it's a lot of atheists will agree, some don't. A good example, my chef, if I'm correct, is still married to his wife who's a Christian. And they have kids and they work it out. So it can be done.
So what do we have now? A hookup culture. We have Tinder. We have swipe right and just click and bang bang and you're done. And
That's true. And honestly, I do not like hookup culture. Now, it depends on what you mean by hookup culture. What I mean by hookup culture is kind of uh, devaluing not necessarily the value of sex, but mainly the sanctity of it, the sacredness of it, if you will, the religious sacredness of it, of two people becoming one flesh, something so special that could create a child. You should have a great foundation before you do something like that, and it should be at least as part of the process of you being a couple already. I think depending on the situation, sex before marriage isn't necessarily bad. Hear me out. Hear me out. If you're not planning to get married, if you're not planning to be with this person for the rest of your life, basically, you should not have sex before marriage. But if the sex is sort of like dating, part of the development of what you already um, agreed with via marriage, like yes, this is gonna be my partner. Not only that, we're gonna spend some time together via dates to get to know each other better, and maybe that might include sex before maybe the wedding. But you decided you are going to be with this person. I think that's fine because it seems like to be healthy. I think that's fine to an extent there, but it's not all about the sex. The sex might be part of it, but it should not be all of it. And yeah, that's what I mean by hookup culture and casual sex, which I think didn't need to happen, but I understand why it happened because of the sort of over containedness, if you will, of healthy sexual expression and your feelings. That might not be the norm, like being gay or trans, etc.
and hey, if you get pregnant while you're doing it, you can just abort the kid later. And it's baffling to me that people don't see the correlation here. Now, I'm not saying it's
That there really is no correlation there. I mean, you got a lot of progressive Christians who sadly, or for hookup culture, don't really think it's a big deal, and I don't think they're Christian. But yeah, that, like again, atheism is not a monolith, so I don't.
saying it's impossible to raise a child on your own. However, the likelihood of that kid having problems when they get older is a lot higher than if you were to
That's
raise a
true.
kid with both the mother and the father. Now,
Or at least two people that might have a motherly or fatherly figure, which I just talked about there. Ironically,
now, from a biblical perspective,
divine
the Bible
intervention.
provides both husbands and wives a manual for how to run their household. So if a child is only getting raised by one parent, they're only getting half of the wisdom that God intended. And
In a sense, yes, I would. Yes, I can see that. I would agree. It just depends of how far Gothix goes with it. Which again, I think divine intervention, folks. I think this is straight up from God. I just recently talked about that.
this is how a lot of kids end up having lack of discipline, lack of direction. They start getting into trouble, running away from home, all kinds of problems that would be, in my opinion, would be resolved if that child was being raised with standards, a consistent standard, and
True.
not just people making up their morality as they go. So whenever you're
But nobody really does that in a sense because people already made up the morality, and since it works, it checks out, it's fine. Again, you want more about that, in my opinion, of morality in a sense, again, previous videos.
Whenever your professor or your friends, these activists or people in the media try to convince you that the black community is this way because of white supremacy or white privilege,
It kind of is because, slavery was kind of a big deal. It kind of hold a lot of us back via generational wealth. So it's not just the culture, but it's also not just white supremacy. It's a mixture of both, and it's a little bit complicated, but also somewhat simple because that is life. But I think for at least black conservatives and sometimes black leftists, they want it simple. They want it to be like it's this and this alone. It's not. It's this and this alone. It's not either. It might be a mixture of both, man, and I think that's fine.
no,
That's all
lack
good.
of character. And we get our character from God. Without God,
No, there's a lot of people who have much better character than those who are so-called people of God. I mean, do I really need to have the? I might be able to have the list of all those things, but like, yeesh, dude, come on. I have that list of why some people leave the church on there. Totally different topic, but still, that's my third one. So I gotta. Yeah, all right, we're
God,
good.
we end up creating our own sense of morality and building our.
Which again, we already and we've done that, and it seems to work out. God is the source of character and morality, not necessarily without Him there wouldn't be any. It's just that without Him, we won't necessarily have an ultimately good foundation upon it, to an extent, because that's still subjective. So I go there.
Our own character and the image that we want, and the end result is a lot of, yeah, man, I'm chilling on the block with my homie, pew pew, like, listen, I don't speak delinquent, so I don't even know what I just said.
Speak though. I can translate. It's quite simple. You want to go back? I'll translate. I'll be the translator, if you will.
But we're left with that. Just people making.
I'll help you out, Gothix.
Yeah, man, I'm chilling on the block with my homie.
Chilling on the block with my homie. I mean, that's standard. Like, I'm here with my friends. And the pew pew blah blah might be, oh, we're gonna rob a bank, or we're gonna take care of this gang here and get those drugs there and get that money there. Like this is standard. This is standard Gothics. I don't know why you don't understand it. Hey, some a lot of people do not understand it. That's fine. I'm just it's like yeah. quite simple, actually.
I don't speak delinquent, so I don't even know what I just said, but we're left with that.
Why do you need to control education in the Marxist worldview? To supplant Christianity and to replace it with secularism.
No. No. China's a good example here. They did kind of use Marxism as a sort of cultural revolution, but cultural Marxism is at least rooted in anti-Semitism, and if I'm correct, still used as anti-Semitic. But there was a sort of cultural set via Mao's cultural revolution, which did not like religion much. It did not. Stalin as well, and Lenin, did they replace it with secularism? No, because secularism is an even playing field. It's not anti-God. It's pro-playing field. If you have God here, you must have not God here as well, so that is not one is not over or under anybody. That is secularism. So this whole boogeyman of secularism had to burst your bubble, Christians, but it's just not true. Secularism is your best friend. If you don't want Iran, if you don't want Iraq, if I'm correct, if you don't want India, definitely. If you definitely don't want China or Russia, secularism is the best way to go. Because either you're China, where it's extreme secularism, or it's Iran and India, and it's extreme, and also Russia, extreme religious theocracy. nationalism, religious nationalism, whether it's Christian or Muslim or Hindu nationalism. And secularism basically is like, how about we just have religion and not religion? It's like a secular, we had an even playing field, which seems to work for America, and that's what the Constitution basically says. To put it bluntly, Congress shall not infringe or prohibit or establish free speech thereof or religion, etc. I'm not kind of misquoted, but you get the point. It was supposed to be even playing field. So no, that's just wrong on so many levels. Darwinian? Oh no. Darwinian, which is not evolution, and Darwin, if I'm correct, was definitely against social Darwinism, which, if I'm correct, the Nazis did kind of use, but they also use a lot of religious symbols. They did. It's true, I'm sorry. Nazis, for the Germans, especially Hitler, they had a mixture of social Darwinism, neo-Norse pagan quasi-Christian mysticism, and mysticism. Like, if I'm correct, Hitler wanted the spear of destiny to become immortal because that killed Christ in a sense. And it's like, oh wow. And depending on your neo-pagan Norse, they might be somewhat Nazi because that's basically what Hitler and the Nazis had there. So yes, but social Darwinism, which I'm correct, even in it was during Darwin's time, he was like, no, I'm against that because that's different between what's reality, which is evolution, and social Darwinism, which says that some races are more evolved than others, but literally, Darwin in evolution says, no, that's not how that works. That's still racism. So this is just propaganda, to be blunt. Uncle Tom, too, in this part is just straight up boogeyman propaganda of, oh, evolution bad, which leads to Marxism, apparently. No, it doesn't, folks. Sorry. I hate to burst your bubble.
No. In Tennessee, there's still a law against teaching the theory of evolution in public schools. That law was
that's stupid.
In 1925 in a famous monkey trial. Now, the man being tried for his views was schoolteacher John Scopes, who was arrested for teaching Darwin's theory of evolution.
That sounds quite dictatorial. I guess it seems like Uncle Tom, too, wants to go back to that. I don't know. They might be like, oh, we're against that, but it's so evil. But we're against that, but it's so evil. You can't have it both ways, folks.
The Bible was used in schools all across America to teach values and culture.
If I'm correct, it was mainly more at home, but for the teachers using the Bible there, it was usually, if I'm correct, for vocabulary, because it was basically the main book that had the printing press, basically, and, to help you spell things out. Technically speaking, no, it was not. Culturally speaking, yes, but academically speaking, it was what it's still used today. Literature, maybe to help spell out certain words or historical stuff, but not necessarily values. That was more at the home, and that was more cultural, which to an extent is fine. Just can't have cultural Christianity because that's not Christianity.
Bible reading was not something that people felt threatened by.
No one feels threatened by reading a Bible. If I'm correct, in any public school, you can read your Bible. The point of secularism in public schools is when you try to force reading the Bible, when you try to have basically the big school mic reading the Bible, because not everybody wants that. Not every parent wants their child, in their opinion, to be shoved religious nonsense. So I think we should on both sides, have that even playing field there. Hey, real quick, if you want to dedicate your life to Christ, aka get saved, or if you're a backslider and want to rededicate your life to Christ, or if you want the baptism of the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking with tongues, those prayers are in the description down below.